public hearing. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time. Following the public hearing, the board will conduct its monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay for the meeting and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. The applicant and the town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decision. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of a decision can sign the sheet on the table at the front of the room. Those wishing immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for hearing each application is, after the application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will have the opportunity to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the board. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the board's field observations and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a brief rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone, state their name, and direct their comments to the board. I ask that all testimony be kept brief, no more than 5 minutes, and to the point. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recordings will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The board has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect these observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this board has 30 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals shall be heard by the Waushara County Circuit Court. Information is available from the Clerk of Court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 30-day period. I'll introduce the rest of the board. To my left are Larry Tim, Kevin Fitzgerald, John Benz, Ruth, our Corp Counsel, Ruth Sowski, our Corp Counsel is on the far end. My name is Roger Wagner, Terry Hochstead, Zoning Administrator is on the right. The first item on the business is an appeal. Thomas and Maria Schaffhauser, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, have appealed an August 26, 2014 administrative decision of the county zoning administrator to the Waushara County Board of Adjustment in accordance with section 58-104, 58-106, and 58-108 of the Waushara County Zoning Code pertaining to sections 58-9 and 58-232, paragraph 5 of the Waushara County Code, relative to the definition of an inoperative vehicle as it pertains to cargo shipping containers being used for storage. Location: an approximate 5.682 acre parcel of land known as lots 12 and 14. Certified survey map number 195 being part of the northwest one quarter, the southeast one quarter, section 36, Town of Hancock, W12237 Bowstring Drive. Before we start the hearing, Ruth, would you kind of explain the rules of why we're here and what we're doing tonight with this appeal?
Absolutely. So the board has been furnished with a copy of the entire record concerning this appeal. They reviewed all the information submitted by the appellant. There was a packet of information regarding his reasoning for the appeal. In addition, they reviewed the actions and discussions that have taken place between the appellant and the zoning staff as notes are taken on all discussions. They also reviewed the applicable sections of the zoning code and examples of previous enforcement actions and permit requirements. Some members of the board have also viewed the property and the structures that are at the center of this appeal. The board may limit testimony tonight so that the discussion centers on this situation and the matter that lies before them. Basically, what we're here to decide tonight is whether the zoning administrator's interpretation of the zoning code is reasonable and correct. Multiple times throughout the years, we'll come to a situation where a specific item is not specifically addressed inside the code. And so then somebody has to make a determination on what that means. And so in this case, what we're talking about is not defined in the code specifically. And so the zoning administrator made an interpretation of that, and the appellant does not agree with that interpretation. And so we are here tonight to look at that. And so the board is going to hear what the appellant has to say and what the zoning administrator has to say, and then they're going to determine which interpretation is correct, or if both of them have merits, it kind of modify the decision between the two of them. So what they're going to look at is what the situation is and whether or not what the applicant would like to do complies with the spirit and the intent of the zoning ordinance, and whether or not it would set a precedent that would be harmful to all of the taxpayers throughout the county. So at this point in time, the board is acting as a quasi-judicial body, and they're determining whether or not the zoning administrator's interpretation is correct. And depending upon what happens, then either party could then take that decision to the circuit court to determine what is the proper action. So that's where we're at tonight.
Okay, thank you. Would the appellant come forward and state your name first and reasons for the appeal?
Hi, my name's Tom Schaffhauser, and I guess the reasons for the appeal were detailed in the packet. I hope everybody got the packet, and hopefully it printed out correctly with colored pictures. And I put one extra space in and inadvertently sent a very bad file with all the formatting ruined when I sent it the first time. So hopefully you got the good one. As far as the appeal, it comes down, just like you described, as an interpretation of something that is not in the code. And an intermodal shipping container is what's at question here. And as detailed in my packet, I feel that there's two places, well, I feel there's only one place in the code that applies to the containers, and that would be the used structure. I'm sorry, I don't have the code number here, but the section of the code pertaining to used structures. The director feels that the containers are inoperable vehicles, and therefore two other sections of the code pertain to it. I think I spelled out pretty clearly what my thoughts are. I can reiterate them here from the packet, but basically they are not a shipping, or they are not a vehicle in any way, and they are not inoperable. They are exactly as they were used when they were created. They're still functional and able to be used. They're wind and water tight, and they're made to, they're a box, a metal box that's made to put things in, and then put them on a truck or on a ship or on a train. And excuse me, they are carried by trucks once they come to the ports by ship and train, but as I described, they're not a truck. They're only carried by trucks, and they're specialized trailers that are made to carry them. But as far as being a vehicle, they have no lights, no brakes, no hitches, no wheels, no axles, and they're not licensable like a trailer would be. So they are just not a vehicle in any way, and they're not inoperable because they're fully functional. They're sold guaranteed wind and water tight, which is what part of the appeal of them. And as I described in my packet, I chose that as a economical and time-saving method of creating some storage space for us. We're looking, as I said, to move up here in a few years, and I'm looking at building a house and trying to get some things moving along in that direction. So I needed storage space, and I needed a well house, and this was an economical way to do it because the cost of containers, because the economy is bad, the cost of containers have come down dramatically, and the cost of lumber has done nothing but rise over the years. And my time is very limited. I work 2 jobs, and I just didn't want to deal with getting all the materials and spending weekends compiling everything and then building it. And so this was the method I chose, as well as it's more secure than a wood building. And with the tornadoes that come through here occasionally, I felt it would be a nice, safe building to anchor to the concrete that I had poured. I didn't do it. If whoever was at the site can see that I didn't do anything shoddy or flippantly or put it on some rocks or something. I had a concrete foundation poured for each of them, and when talking with, I believe it was Rick Ertl, I explained to him that if it was requested, I understood that they're not the prettiest thing in the world, and that I would not have a problem siding them and putting a roof on it, at which time they would look exactly like a wood box that I would build. I guess that's about where I'm at on it, and it comes down to the interpretation of what those are for. And I guess what I'd like to say is that I understand you don't want eyesores in the county, but if anyone's taken a ride around the county recently, there's all kinds of eyesores that are appropriately acceptable in the code because of what people choose or where they choose to put it or how they choose to assemble it. So there's no shortage of taste, and it's obviously difficult to regulate that, and you have to try to keep things looking decent, and I certainly understand that. But by the same token, today is different than 20 years ago, and things do change, and these containers, as I've shown you some of the unbelievably gorgeous buildings made with them, are becoming a viable alternative to building because everybody wants to be green, although I hate the word, but there's so many of them because of our imbalance of trade. They're stacking up at the warehouses, and people are looking to find uses for them, and they're just as a building would be. They have truss floors and plywood floors. They have beams on the floor and plywood, and then metal walls that are twice as strong as wood walls. And so as times change, sometimes it takes a while for codes to catch up to things. And in this instance, I would guess, I hate to assume, but I would guess there hasn't been a great deal of thought put into whether an intermodal shipping container is a vehicle or not. But it certainly is something to maybe consider. Obviously, you said you don't want to set precedent, but to consider beyond this that, people may more and more want to use them because they are an inexpensive resource. Wood is constantly going in costs, and they're very structurally sound and secure. So I think that it's something that you haven't seen because it generally wasn't available. The cost of containers was pretty high, and lumber was reasonable. But as times change and as the economy changes, this became viable to me. And that's truly why I chose it, because it was economically beneficial and because it was time beneficial to me. And that's why I went that direction. Certainly if you want to make me take them off the property and build the same thing out of wood, I will comply. It's not worth fighting, but it would cost me a considerable amount of money to do that and time to basically have the same thing once it's sided as the containers would be when they're sided. So I think I covered most everything.
Okay. Do you have any information that might substantiate any improprieties in the handling of this matter from the zoning office?
No, I don't think there was anything improper. I think they were reasonable, and I wasn't the most timely in responding, and they didn't get on me about that, and they provided all the information for appeal and everything, so I don't particularly have any gripes to that degree. I simply have the argument that one person, the director, decided that it was an inoperable vehicle, and I just feel that's not correct in any way. And I just have, I understand, like I say, the desire not to have eyesores around and not to set precedent with things that are going to cause you a problem down the road. But hopefully you can understand my point of view on it, that it's a viable building alternative. It's essentially a used structure that would have to follow the variance procedure or whatever the procedure is to get a permit, a land use permit. And so it needs to be reviewed to do that. And I guess what I'm saying is why would you out of hand negate the possibility of using a container by calling it an inoperable vehicle? Why wouldn't a person be able to tell you what they want to build with it, show you what you're going to build with it, and then have the board decide as they would any other, land use permit request? I think you should have a day to say what you want to do and if it's reasonable or not reasonable. So I didn't like the fact that it was just, like I said, if it was listed in there, intermodal containers not allowed, I would have been done with it already. But it wasn't, and it come down to a decision of one person, and that's where I said that's just not something that I feel comfortable with, and that's why I filed the appeal. So,
Rest of the committee have any questions?
So you haven't ever gotten a permit for the concrete work or bringing those in?
correct, I have that.
Had you applied for a permit, they would have told you right away that it may be an inoperable vehicle?
I expect that they would have.
You know how many square foot the trailers are?
They're 8 by 20, so 160 square feet.
Any other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Besides, you indicated like in your packet that historically they were either carried by truck or by train, or by ship. Do you know of any other uses that these type of containers were built for?
Well, I don't know, I'm speculating, but I think they were built for their intermodal shipping containers. They're made to bring products from China. Over the years, China, all the manufacturing's gone to China, and there needed a way to have them come here. Once they came here, then people are creative and they thought of ways to use them, which is why companies put doors on them and, sell them to companies or even governments for extra storage or storage while they're remodeling or whatever. But I don't particularly believe they were designed for anything more than to securely hold things to come over in the ocean and not get affected by salt water and bugs and things, and that's basically what they are. They're just a metal secure box sealed with rubber and cleaned and watertight.
And then you indicated in your packet also that you would still be willing to side them if the board
Correct.
allowed them. And how long do you think that would take?
Well, my understanding in speaking with Rick, when I called Rick and he told me that I had to remove them, and he was on the letter, so I explained to him that I really didn't feel they were an inoperable vehicle and that I'd be willing to side them and whatnot. And he said, yeah, I can see what you're saying. So he was going to, honestly, when I hung up from him, I was pretty positive that he understood what I was saying. It'd be no problem. He said you'd have a year. We'd get a land use permit. You'd have a year to get it cited and everything would be fine. I said, that's great. So that's what I'd be looking for. This year I'm pretty much done up here. And,
Okay.
if I would have a year to get it cited, I would put a roof on and cite it. And
Do you know how far they are from the lot lines?
the closest one to the lot line is 65 steps of mine.
Okay.
So, and the other one's much farther than that.
So if they didn't meet the
Setback
setback requirements, you'd be able to move them?
If they didn't, I'd have to, but I
Okay.
don't expect that they don't.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Any correspondence?
Yes, we have one letter from the DNR addressed to the Waushara County Board of Adjustments.
You can have a chair if you wish.
Okay, thank you.
Subject appeal by Schaffhauser, Town of Hancock, and the variance request for Olson, Town of Deerfield. And I will just read the parts that pertain to Schaffhauser at this time. It says, Dear Board members, I'm writing to you to provide department comments regarding the appeal of decision for the Schaffhauser property and the variance request for the Olson property that are to be reviewed before the Waushara County Board of Adjustments on October 16th, 2014. I appreciate that you provided me with the materials for these requests. I am providing these comments to you in place of making an appearance at the public hearing in person. Please have these comments delivered to and/or read before the Board of Adjustments. Regarding the Schaffhauser appeal, The department understands the following facts. The applicant is appealing to the decision by the county zoning administrator regarding the definition of an inoperative vehicle, section 58-9, as it pertains to a cargo shipping container being used for storage and for use as accessory structure, section 58-232, parens 5. Comments. While this case is not related to shoreline zoning specifically, the department has reviewed various types of applications or questions related to interpretations of county ordinances. State standards provide only general definitions and therefore allow counties the flexibility in their ordinances to make their definitions that pertain more directly to the features, situations, and circumstances they experience within their respective authority. The department regards the definitions in the Waushara County's ordinance to be in good order and concurs with the interpretation of an operative vehicle in section 58-9 and as an accessory structure for yard setbacks per 58-232, parens 5. A parked cargo shipping container could be considered at some point to be mobile, i.e. shipped, and would be part of a vehicle when loaded on a trailer or when wheels are added. A shipping container would also qualify as a structure in a yard. And it ends with, please contact me if you have any questions. Signed, sincerely, Dale Rozovic, Regional Shoreline Specialist for DNR. And that's it for
Do we have anyone
correspondence.
here and speak in favor of this or objecting?
No, we don't.
Staff comments?
I guess I can try to explain my interpretation of the code. Our inoperative vehicle definition includes a motor vehicle which is abandoned, disassembled, non-operative, disabled, junked, or no longer licensed. The definition goes on to include commercial type vehicles, including but not limited to dump trucks, buses, construction vehicles, semi-trailers, and semi-tractors, which are not fully operative, in active use, or licensed. I firmly believe this is a disassembled portion of a commercial type vehicle. It was designed to be carried on semi-trailers, railroad cars, ships, all commercial type vehicles. And when it's disassembled, you have the container, which is at the center of this debate. It's nearly identical to a truck trailer box. It cannot be transported overland without being hauled on some kind of trailer made to accommodate it. Its purpose is the same as an enclosed truck box when placed upon a trailer. And it's my interpretation that it's still considered an operative vehicle under our code because it is part of a commercial vehicle when used as such. And again, when you disassemble a commercial vehicle, it's still considered an operative vehicle, each of those parts. And the code goes on to say you can't use them as a storage building. Again, I don't see any difference between the use of this part of that vehicle from a truck box. Wheels or no wheels, it's still part of a transportation vehicle. It's not meant to stand alone. Our code clearly prohibits the use of inoperative vehicles for use as an accessory building. It's my job to make these interpretations, and I try to make them in keeping with the spirit and intent of the zoning code. I certainly feel that the appellant, I can feel for the appellant, and I know that he didn't proceed knowingly and trying to violate the law. It certainly was without malice. Our conversations have always been quite productive. We just don't see eye to eye on this, and I certainly don't want to cause him harm or undue expense. But again, my job is to interpret the code and protect the goals and objectives set forth in that code, and I feel this pretty strongly that this must be done, that we have to enforce this part of the code, and that's my interpretation. And if we don't, we will set a precedent and allow something to be used in place of a conventional storage building that is part of a vehicle and thus an operative vehicle. So that's my interpretation.
Does the applicant have anything in rebuttal to?
People tell me I always have to have the last word. I hear exactly what you're saying, and if I was here trying to have you approve a straight box taken off a straight truck that was physically disassembled, I would agree with your interpretation. There's nothing part of a shipping container that's been disassembled. It's made to be lifted up in the air by forklifts or cranes and put on ships, and they stack them 10 high and 20 wide, and then they bring it into the harbor, and they put them on trains, and then they get to the terminal, and they put them on trucks, and then they get to the people who bought the stuff inside, and they put it in their parking lot. It is a box made to hold generally merchandise, and nothing's been disassembled. And as I stated in my packet, Portage County does understand this. They do not allow inoperable vehicles, but they allow shipping containers for a $25 permit. They don't require concrete, they don't require paint, they don't require siding, they don't require anything. Obviously, that's their choice, and this is Waushara County. But they did pay enough attention to the difference to actually address it in the code. And like I said, I canvassed all the counties around Waushara. Some people didn't know what a shipping container was. But I don't believe a lot of attention has been paid to this by the director or anyone in zoning. I could be wrong. But in this county or in most any county, and apparently Portage County did, and they certainly saw that what I'm saying is correct. It's not an inoperable vehicle. So that's my rebuttal on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce, do you have any comments to make at this time?
This time?
No?
No, I think once we get into the business meeting, we have discussion on it, I can give you what I think is my opinion, and
Okay,
then you can make a decision from there.
okay. The next item on the agenda would be a variance. Connie Olson, Watoma, Wisconsin, has made an application for a variance in accordance with section 58-232, paragraph 6, 58-826, paragraph B, and 58-232, paragraphs A, 5, and B of the Waushara County zoning code to construct a 22 by 24 detached garage coming to within 3.5 feet of the southeasterly side lot line, 7.5 foot setback required, and to within 41.5 feet of the center line of Marl Lake Road, 49 foot average setback required, and to construct a 14 by 24 single-story addition with partially exposed basement to an existing single-family dwelling exceeding 25% of the footprint of a non-conforming structure, non-conforming due to road setback in the RS-20 single-family residential zone within the shoreline area. Location, a parcel of land known as lots 51, 52, and 53 of Blader and Wandry's plat of Lake Maryland, being part of the northwest one quarter to southeast one quarter, Section 23, Town of Deerfield, Marl Lake, N3648 Marl Lake Road. Is the applicant present? Would you come forward, please, and state your name?
Hi, I'm Connie Olson.
Okay. Do you have anything briefly to summarize what you'd like to do out there, Connie? Otherwise, we just have some general questions.
Go ahead and ask the questions.
Okay. Has there been a recent survey, and are you sure of the lot lines?
Yes.
And you've identified all the stakes?
Yes, we had Mr. Cryer from Watoma do the surveying for us,
Okay.
and he marked the stakes,
And
placed the stakes.
you're also sure of the road right-of-way locations?
Yes.
Have you talked to the town board about this proposal, and did they have any comments or concerns?
I have talked to them, and I don't believe there were any concerns.
What type of foundation would the cabin addition be placed on?
It would be placed on, we're not certain, it's either going to be block or cement, poured wall foundation, and the addition itself is going to be placed on what is a decline, and so we were advised by a Watoma builder to just take advantage of that, and rather than have a crawl space or just a slab, to just dig into the hill and have a basement, which would also provide more storage as well as a shelter from storms, etc.
How far above existing grade will the first floor be are you gonna be doing a lot of filling or grading or earth removal?
First floor will be same as the existing structure. The only excavating that would be done would be to remove more of the hill to have the basement be the lower structure.
And what will the finished height of your home be when you're done?
The same as the existing structure.
How do you plan on dealing with stormwater runoff and possibly erosion?
The builder has suggested some retaining walls, and so he being much more experienced in that area than my husband and I, and he comes very well recommended, Mr. Sherwald from Watoma, so he had some good plans for that.
Okay. Any other improvements planned for the cabin?
No, the cabin is going to remain as such. It is basically a one-bedroom with a bit of a storage room and one bathroom, open kitchen and living room.
And the garage will be put on a slab then?
The garage will be put on a slab, 24 by 22.
Gonna bring in a lot of fill for the garage?
I don't know if we've been told exactly how much fill is necessary yet. We have a local excavator and builder, concrete worker.
I guess what I'm asking, you're not gonna build it up on
No,
about a foot?
about 1 foot.
Okay. And it'll be a single-story garage?
It will be, yes.
And there'll be enough room there for parking and a turnaround or whatever, so we don't back
There
out
will
onto
be,
the road?
yes, there will be enough room for parking as well as the turnaround,
Okay.
so we can pull forward out onto the street rather than
Uh,
slide back down the hill.
Have you looked at the setback from the well and the garage and everything?
Yes, and I'm happy to report, it was a process, because one DNR individual to another, finally led me to the one, Elizabeth Heinen, who knew the correct answer. And as of October 1st, there is no more required or minimum setback, per se, from any well. They don't want to deal with it. They have said that, you know, if somebody puts it inside a structure or right near a structure, it's on the individual's responsibility. That, however, wasn't enough to make me feel confident in. So I did contact 4 different well drillers, and they were all pretty much on the same track and said that as long as we had a couple of feet, well, actually they all said they would get to it one way or the other. But some of the options were removing part of the garage. We don't want to do that. So to stay a couple of feet away, they felt was more than ample to be able to get their equipment in the event that, I guess what usually goes wrong is maybe the pump itself. And they felt that they could do that. And so we would actually be 4 feet away from the well as far as the garage itself, but the roof would be either 3 or 2 feet away, depending on our overhang.
Any other improvements planned on the lot at this time?
We have started a little, for the gentleman and Terry, when they were there the one day, they noticed we have a little shed. It's less than 100 square feet and less than $200 in cost, which is kind of replacing the metal shed, which is near a drain field. And when Rick first came out, he told us that it was okay because it's there now, but it's dilapidated. It's deteriorating. So we hope to remove it. It's an eyesore. So we hope to remove that, and then with this little shed, my husband will have room for some of his equipment.
All other setbacks will be met then, except
Yes.
for what we're... okay.
Yes.
Have you had the septic evaluated? Is that
Yes.
good
Tyler
shape?
Goki, and I believe he submitted a statement saying such.
There are no other non-conforming structures then besides that shed that's coming down?
No.
Are you planning on cutting any of the vegetation that's on the shoreline there?
No. correct?
And if approved, when would you do this construction?
ASAP. Hopefully before another winter.
Any other committee questions? Okay.
What is the size of the woodshed that's there now?
It's under 100 square feet and under $200.
Okay.
He was adamant about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, all of you. You've been so helpful.
Any correspondence on this?
Yes, we have that letter that I will continue from the DNR. Regarding the Olson property variance, the department understands the following facts. The applicant proposes to construct a 22 by 24-foot garage within the side lot setback and road centerline setback, and to construct a 14 by 24-foot single-story addition to an existing residence, exceeding the 25% footprint of a nonconforming structure due to road setback in a shoreline zone. Comments. The applicant must convincingly demonstrate that they are meeting the 3 required variance criteria for unnecessary hardship, area, or use, hardship due to unique property limitations, and no harm to public interest. The department would have no problem if the Board of Adjustments decides to grant this variance based on the shoreline zone setbacks. And again, that's signed Dale Razabek, Regional Shoreline Specialist. And then this morning I talked with Tom Whaley, the town chair for the Town Board of Deerfield, and he told me that the board had visited the site at N3648 Mar Lake Road and that they had no objection to the proposal. The Olsons had worked with the neighbor on the reduced side lot setback, and Tom also said that the construction of a garage and parking area could enhance safety on the town road by providing adequate parking on the parcel rather than on the town road, which they had done in the past. So that's it for correspondence.
No one registered to speak in favor or object. Staff comments?
So, let's see. Some of the board did visit. They viewed the property. It is the applicant's responsibility to present the case and provide the burden of proof as to why the variance should be granted. The personal situation of the applicant, financial hardship, or nearby violations cannot be considered as valid reasons to grant a variance. Just want to remind you of that again. In this case, the applicant is asking for a variance to add on to the home because it doesn't meet the road setback, and to construct a new detached garage that doesn't meet the road or side lot line setback. The lot is relatively wide, but it is limited by steep slopes towards the lake and off the road. And there certainly is limited area between the road and the home and everything else there now because it's got the septic system there. So it is encumbered by the septic system. And that's it for my comments.
Applicant have anything in rebuttal? Okay. That closes the public hearing for the Board of Adjustments. We will adjourn to the room right outside the door for our business meeting. The Olsons and the Schaffhausers are welcome to come in to our business meeting. Planning and Zoning will have their public hearing here next.
No? That won't happen. You have this with you?
Sure.
You were gonna update some things,
Yep.
right?
Yep, I will do that.
Fred,
Or
you
someone
going in
will.
first? Where's Jerry going? Bathroom, I'm sure.
Yeah, he didn't check with me, but I think that's the case.
Nope, he's got to come back here. We got to go get him.
Yeah, you better go get him. He's going in the wrong room. Jerry's going in the wrong.
Maybe I'll send him back.
Yeah. I hope. You going in first?
Sure, I will.
Jerry can come around the block.
Yeah.
Don't one more, Fred.
Come on in here by us, Jerry.
It is his first one since he's been back on the board that.
Come this way, Jerry.
Jerry, go around the block. It's easier. Oops, sorry, Fred.
Oh, that's quite all right.
Glad he can make it. Jerry, glad he could make it.
back.
Get your attention.
I will call this meeting of Waushara County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. This hearing will be conducted in the same manner as the applications heard by the Board of Adjustments. Please remember to keep your comments brief, no more than 5 minutes, and relative to the matter at hand. Tonight we'll be considering adoption of a proposed Waushara County Farmland Preservation Plan of 2014. This plan includes the county's policy related to farmland preservation and agricultural development, identifies trends, plans, or needs that map affected farmland preservation or agricultural development in the county, and identifies the areas that the county plans to preserve for agricultural use and agricultural related uses as required by 91.10 of the Wisconsin state statutes. Prior to this hearing, proper notices have been given to all parties, including a Class 1 notice to the Waushara Argus. Anyone other than the applicant or their representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who has not should do so immediately and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator to my right. Following the public hearing, the committee will conduct their monthly business meeting, at which time we will consider the farmland preservation plan and make a recommendation to the county board. You may stay and what recommendations the committee makes, or you may leave following the public hearing. I will introduce the committee. To my far left, Jerry Rathmel, Fred Gallerup, Bob Wadle, Terry Dopp-Pockstead. To my right, zoning administrator, my name is Mark Kirschner. First application we have tonight will be, the Farmland Preservation Act, attached Class 1 notice, and Terry
And I will
take care of this.
Yep, I will start to tell you. I'm going to outline the Wisconsin Working Lands Initiative and the farmland preservation planning process. Tell you what it is, what it hopes to do, and what it involves. As you are all likely aware, agriculture is a vital part of Wisconsin and Waushara County's economy and cultural identification. And as you are also very likely aware, agriculture here and in other parts of the state faces many challenges, one of which is the conversion of agricultural lands to other uses. These conversions, once completed, rarely revert back. In order to address the loss of Wisconsin's most productive agricultural lands and to promote economic development for the benefit of all types of agriculture, the Working Lands Initiative was passed by the legislature in 2009. This act forced changes to the old farmland preservation program by creating new programs that compelled municipalities to look at and revise their farmland preservation plans to address these changes. So that's where we're at tonight. We have to update our plan. We're looking at a revised plan to try to preserve our most valuable agricultural lands and businesses, and while updating it to address current issues and development pressures. Ed Hernandez in our office has been the leader in developing this plan, and he has worked with departmental staff and the public to come up with the draft that you received in the mail. Statutorily, the plan needs to address the elements noted in Chapter 91.10 of the statutes, including 1, population, housing, and municipal growth, 2, agricultural resources and agricultural land uses, 3, economic growth and business development, 4, utilities, infrastructure, and community facilities, 5, natural resources, and 6, programs and actions for farmland preservation and agricultural development. Once these key elements were identified in the county, the plan needed to address the development of agricultural economic development planning strategies by looking at options for farm networks, new joint infrastructure opportunities, local processing opportunities, diversified product lines of both food and non-food agricultural items, unique marketing strategies and niche markets, and the development of agricultural tourism. Surveys were done, and then farmland preservation areas were identified, taking all the cues from the county comprehensive plan with input from each town board and planning commission. Then the plan was double and triple checked for consistency with other plans and local codes. The farmland preservation plan, if adopted, following this and the county board, will become a part of the county's comprehensive plan. To date, our staff, Corp Counsel, Patrick Nearing, and DATCAP have all reviewed and preliminarily approved the plan. East Central Regional Planning Commission has also been consulted throughout the process, and they actually helped us develop the maps that are in the plan because they were taken from each town's individual land use plan, and they had that information. So hopefully you've all at least read through it briefly, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Guess I've got a couple for you, Terry. Could you tell us who has currently reviewed the draft plan and what their opinion was?
Sure. Staff reviewed it, including Megan. She's been very good at helping review. Josh, Ed, and myself. It was reviewed by East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. It was reviewed by Patrick Nearing for consistency with the county comp plan. It was reviewed by DAPCAP, and they sent back some information, and we made whatever changes they had requested. It was reviewed by town boards for map consistency, and it was reviewed by Ruth for legal consistency. So far it's made it through all those hurdles, and everybody agreed that it was ready for this hearing.
So all the important people have seen it.
Okay, I guess
I don't know
that
if we're all important, but
kind of answers the next one, but I'll ask anyway. What agencies and individuals were notified about tonight's hearing?
in order to pass this, it has to go through exactly the same process as the county comprehensive plan. So we had to send it to all the libraries, Patrick, Ruth, staff, and DATCAP. And then we had to do the Class 1 notice in the paper, noting where copies were available. We also sent it to town chairs and clerks, village and city clerks and chairs, clerks of surrounding counties, East Central Regional Planning Commission, and for some reason or another, we had to send it to all landowners and operators of non-metallic mining operations. And we did do that.
Will this plan, if and when it is adopted by the county board, meet the minimum requirements for farmland preservation plans and inclusion in the comprehensive plan?
It is the opinion of all who have reviewed it that this plan meets all minimum requirements as far as content and procedure goes, and if adopted, will be a properly reviewed and approved farmland preservation plan and can become part of the county's comprehensive plan.
Okay. And finally, can you explain the relationship between this plan and the Farmland Preservation Tax Credit Program?
This is the big one that everybody wants to know, right? In order for an eligible landowner to apply for a farmland preservation tax credit, the municipality, and in our case the county, that has the zoning, must have a properly adopted farmland preservation plan in place. So we are compelled to do this and get it done on time to make sure that people can apply for those credits. After that, people can only apply if the municipality has exclusive ag or farmland preservation zoning, and we do not. It has always been viewed, as far as I can understand, as so restrictive that it's something that the county has never wanted to do. So if you don't have farmland preservation zoning, the other option to apply for credits is to form what they call an ag enterprise area. And that involves a number of landowners. I think the minimum is 5, and there's probably a minimum acreage on it too. And then they have to form this ag enterprise area and get all the approvals of the local municipalities and apply to DATCAP to have it deemed as such. And if they get that approved, and I'm not aware that DATCAP's denied any of them, then those lands are eligible for the tax credits as well. And we have surveyed a number of people, and no one's ever been interested in doing that. So, but in order for people to apply, we do have to have this in place.
Thank you.
Okay, questions have been asked. There's no correspondence. There's nobody registered in favor to speak. No staff comments. You've pretty much done all that. So that will conclude our public hearing for tonight.
And I would offer that I could just give you my notes for the questions if you want, and you can incorporate those into the minute. Well, you can just say see attached, because we wanted to make sure that we probably in the general minutes stuff. Okay.
Okay, so that concludes our
Public hearing?
public hearing for tonight. Roll